This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
While we wish well-being and safety to all those in the real world in Japan dealing with the after effects of the typhoon, here in the virtual world, drivers don't have to worry about the rain at all. In fact, the preparations for some have been happening all week trying to find speed around this technical track. Will our drivers be able to weather the storm? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, Suzuka may be tough technically, but the long straights here certainly should offer some drafting opportunities for this little SRF, I imagine.
Most definitely, Joe. Suzuka International Racing Course Grand Prix Circuit is a 5.8 kilometer or 3.6 miles, 17-turn figure eight. Yes, you heard that right, it's a figure eight. Immediately before turn 130R, the track passes over itself on the run towards the front stretch. Originally designed as a Honda test track for Honda Motors in early 1960s, and playing host to the most recent round of Formula One, this chaotic course features many sweeping corners, challenging the Spec Racer Ford being driven today to be right on the ragged edge of grip and balance throughout the first and second sectors of sweeping turns. Then, it tests their courage down the long back straight into the final chicane. Now, while you may think this is the best place to pass on track, that would actually be the pit straight just past the chicane, as its arcing turn 1 gives you a chance to run away, and the S's don't give an opportunity for a return challenge or a pass back. Now, this course presents many difficulties and makes for an interesting lap, so let's see one as we take a lap around Suzuka in our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Down into turns 1 and 2, this is going to be an incredibly tricky braking zone. The car is going to feel very unsteady if you're really pushing, and that means you can expect a number of spins, especially if drivers wind up battling too wide. Try to square off a late apex, and from out of there, you'll set up for the S's. Staying on the racing line through here will be critical to a good lap time. In fact, it'll be a lot more difficult to gain time, while it'll be very easy to lose it. Expect it to be mostly single-file racing through here unless someone gets desperate. Set yourself up on the exits for each subsequent corner until you come up to the final left-hander. You should be able to take this flat out, but don't let the car understeer off into the gravel. Now, through the Dunlop curve, you'll bring the car off to the left on exit. That's because you'll want a nice straight shot into Degner 1, where it's best not to clobber that inside curb too hard. Then, before you have time to think, you're braking for Degner 2 with its heavy banking. Carrying your momentum and keeping the car from getting sideways will give you the most speed through here. After that, you finally approach a potential passing spot, the hairpin. If you do try to overtake someone, just be careful that they don't take a late defense with the curved approach. Nothing special here, just try to get a late apex and put the right pedal down as soon as you know it'll stick. Even though this is one long curve, in the SRF it's effectively a straight because you're going to be flat out all the way until Spoon. And while you might be tempted to try and pass into Spoon, there's surprisingly little braking into this double apex left-hander. This is another critical spot for a good corner exit. It takes you onto the backstretch where you'll find it climbs pretty steeply uphill. At the end of it is the notorious 130R. It only requires a little lift, but once again, watch out for the curbs in this car because it bounces around way too easily. Finally, there's the Casio Triangle. This last chicane is probably the most popular place for passes, but as with all chicanes, taking it side by side will slow you both down greatly. Careful with the apex curbs, get the power down, and shorten the last corner onto the front stretch. Battles might start to erupt on your way down into turn 1, but hopefully you've now finished a lap around Suzuka. You see a lap around Suzuka, but the Weekend Warriors, once again, as every week this season, is brought to you by Sim Stickers. Whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. You can find out more about them at simstickers.co.uk, and you can even buy yourself some of those stickers to put on your sim rig there. Definitely give them a look, as we want to offer our greatest thanks to Sim Stickers for sponsoring this season. Now, let's take a look at the championship while the qualifying continues on. Sadro, who is up towards the top of the qualifying, is at the top of the points, being followed by Steve Elson, who drops way back. Look at the gap now, 57 points because of the bad finish that Steve had. If anything, it's not Steve that I think that Daniel's worried about. It's a name that's not even on here because Gaspers has only missed 2 of the first 3 rounds and has been the first to take multiple wins this season. So he's looking good today, and that could change this top 5 that you see here. Let's take a look at the Spec 2 as well, Adam. That's our amateur championship in this series.
Yeah, definitely. Edward Doherty is going to retain the lead of the Spec 2 championship right now, but he's being chased very handily by Tom Gradwell at the moment. Gary Woldbot is up 2 positions from last week with 26 points behind, and with Gabe Nail and Nico Schuck not here today, as well as not here last week at Sebring, that's going to drop them probably off this graphic by the time we get there next week.
So obviously drivers are going to have some work to do after today for not showing up. It is always harder to score points, but let's go over some of the race details because that will be involved in this championship as well. The reason I say that is here in round 5, they do get those 3 drop weeks that the points, the worst of their season, don't count towards the championship. So they can miss races if they need. Today's race is a 40-minute race, and with the open setups and the limited fuel, they will have 1 stop for fuel that they'll have to make. You can see that they ration the points, interestingly. So if you do show up, if you finish last place, you still get at least 25 points no matter what. Incident points will be accrued as well and take off points in the championship. So you got to stay safe and clean out on the track. And they have a fast repair, a free car waiting in the pits if they damage theirs too much. We've seen plenty of drivers use that in the pit stops if the damage happens close to the pit window. We'll keep an eye on that. As we watch from on board McAreevy, just a quick reminder that you are watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is click the big red button that says subscribe, and you won't miss a moment here on IESN, where we cover the Weekend Warriors week in and week out. And the qualifying, David Gaspers has been very, very quick. He's got 0.8 of a second over Sadro, but I believe Sadro is finishing up a timed lap right now as he stopped back into the pits and then came back out. But it is a long lap around here in the Spec Racer, Adam, so they don't get too many chances.
Yeah, it's almost 2.5 minutes, so if you don't have a good amount of draft and a good amount of speed through these sharp corners, it can be really difficult. As we're looking at Pepe Vasquez Martinez right now going around the track. I'd like to make an apology. Nico Schuck is here today and is actually currently P8 overall, whereas Edward Doherty, the points leader in Spec 2, is P13 overall right now. So Nico doing a good job to look like he's going to head for a good points day today.
And Nico tends to be well up there. He's got that provisional pole for Spec 2, which, if you're wondering how to tell if a car is Spec 2, look at the number on the car. If it's over 200, that's one of the amateur division. Sadro's last lap, unfortunately, was not quicker. Looks like, in fact, he must have had a spin or an off somewhere because it's a 2:33 last time by. Very slow for him. Joe Aguilar. Actually, no, Joe is the Spec 2 pole sitter, it looks like, not Shuk. He's up in 3rd on the 2nd row. Clearly, this orange car incredibly fast today with a 2:26.7 on the board. That could still change. Now, we've seen some cross-pollination over in the Lotus 49 from the Weekend Warriors, of all things, which is on Saturday mornings typically here on GSRC. And Billy Bob Wright, one of those drivers that has been coming across from there over to here now. He sits in 4th, is clearly suiting this Spec Racer Ford quite well. You can see the number 49 appropriately coming around to Spoon Curve.
I'm also recognizing some drivers from our Camel series as well, such as Daniel Sadro and Giulio Forcolin are also drivers who race in one of our other series on Saturday morning. So it's good to see a lot of these Weekend Warriors drivers being Weekend Warriors in multiple series across the iRacing network.
You can't hold down the love of racing with many of these guys. For Colin coming around without having put a time in yet, we're missing about 4 cars from the timing sheets just simply because they haven't been able to get a clean lap. It looks like one of them won't take a lap at all because Telmo Almiral, I see, is not in the session. So that'll be one less as we watch Doherty come around, currently in 15th. He's got a few of those Spec 2 drivers ahead of him this last lap. Another one of those that he must have had an off track somewhere, as that did not count.
All right, so Daniel Sadro is just finishing what will, just about to start what will likely be his final lap of the day. With 4 minutes to go, this is going to be his last opportunity for to make a timed lap, and he's got Gary Wolbott just ahead of him.
And
so
he did go
Billy
quicker.
Wright following him through.
Yeah, he this last lap, he went about 3 to 4 tenths quicker. Unfortunately, that still doesn't get him the pole away from Gaspers. He's about half a second away. Gaspers just had an incredible lap, and he's been sitting in the pits for quite a while now, so he clearly feels comfortable out there. But like you said, Sadro gets another few opportunities before he needs to return. So you see the number 23 just sitting and relaxing before the start of the race. Stevie Ray with a nice 7th currently, getting himself a pull up towards 130R behind Dominic Bureau here. Adam?
Yeah, and the strategy here on qualifying is very different than the race. And during the race, that was a good distance to go into 130R. But during qualifying, you actually wanted to be another like half as many car lengths back, so that you don't catch them through the sharp point of 130R, which Stevie Ray did. That's likely going to lose him a little bit of time. But he has enough time to make one more attempt at a lap.
Oh, but he did go quicker. A 27.659 will jump him, or excuse me, no, there's Bureau that went quicker. That's Bureau who goes to 16th. And Stevie Ray, that one did not count for him, so he'll stay in 7th. What about Miroslav Juracek, one of our winners thus far this season? Out of the hairpin down towards Spoon. Well down the order, surprisingly. His only timed lap at 27.3. That's good enough for 12th.
Yeah, but with a field this big, Joe, it's a good thing to get a lap in at all. Suzuka is known for being a track that is where track position is very important, even with a drafting car such as the Spec Racer Ford. So I believe that Miroslav is going to want to get a better time than this, but having a time in, even if you're in the middle of the pack, that's better than starting from the rear.
Now, the younger of the Haycoxes, Hugh, who we see on screen, currently in 16th, just saw his father, the number 35, jump to 3rd onto the 2nd row next to Aguilar, who he bumps back to the outside of that row. So Ian looking very, very fast up there, could potentially get into the mix. That'll, of course, demote Billy Bob right into P5. Martinez to the outside of that row. Jerry McAreevy's come in and managed to get himself not only qualifying laps, but practice laps this time as well. So glad to see the 67 getting a little bit more time out here.
Yeah, it could be difficult, especially in this particular car. You may think, oh wow, the speeds are a little bit slower, the lap times are a little bit longer, so it'll be easier to race this car. But if you've ever taken this car out on track, this thing is a finicky little car. It can be really difficult to drive this thing around, especially when you get into braking zones that are curved, such as the first couple of turns of this track. This is what can separate the men from the boys.
Certainly going to take some skill as well as a little bit of luck out there today. You can see Ian continuing on, towing along. Is that Bradshaw? Yes, it is. That is Adam Bradshaw, who has been promoted up into the Spec 1 this season. He is now the number 5, so he's fighting for that overall as he gets towed along behind the bright green car of Haycox. Running out of time. As we watch them come up to the front stretch here pretty soon. Not sure if they're going to be able to finish this lap. Let's take a look on Whitney Strickland and watch the number 80 and see how one of the drivers from farther back handles this track. up through Spoon Curve, and really will get a sense of just how steep of a climb it is up this hill just as the clock runs out. Apologies for losing picture here temporarily, and we're back, thankfully. The Texas driver going to try and improve on this final attempt.
Yeah, Whitney's just coming through 130R now. Let's see how he handles this. Turns a little early, but it ends up being a good line, clipping both the apex and the outside curb. Let's see how he takes this final chicane.
It's going to be the next one across. A couple other drivers have finished out their qualifying ahead of Whitney. So out of the final turn, number 80 sitting on a 2:32.9. And the timing line comes early, so it's a 2:31.4. A decent improvement, but does not take them higher up on the field.
All right, so Juracek coming across the line now, and he moves up to P9. So great, fantastic qualifying effort for him. He's going to be starting in the top 10.
McAreevy across next, and he improves a 2:26.6 and up to third on the second row for him. A great final showing for Jerry. Now, can he back it up in the race? Emil Orza is going to be the next one to cross. He's coming through Casio right now, and he's one of the drivers without a lap time. Hopefully this is not an out lap. Let's see what he's got. Nothing. Apparently he had an off somewhere, so he will start from the back in the end.
Jeff Jacobs is the next one across the line, currently P28, and looking to be, he's coming into the pits, unfortunately, so he must have had an off somewhere. Hugh Haycox will be the next one across.
He is going to complete his lap. The 2:33 has a quickest of 2:27.6 and make that a 2:27.5 now. But that doesn't look like that improves his position with that last lap. Believe we've got Antonio Reese and Bob Kern looking to finish theirs up. I don't think they started, or I think they did start the lap in time to be able to complete these. Surprised to see Reese down in 21st.
Yes, that's Antonio Reese is on an out lap, and I believe Bob Kern would also be on an out lap. Yes, so both of these guys will be starting in their current positions.
That'll solidify the field. Let's go through your starting order. It's a big one out there today. It's a big track, so they'll have some space. Up at the front, it's going to be David Gaspers returning to see if he can claim another championship with Daniel Sadro starting in second. Next to him, Jerry McAreevy, P3, is followed by Ian Haycox on the outside of that second row and fourth. Joe Aguilar, the pole sitter, and the Spec 2 will be fifth overall. Billy Bob right next to him in sixth position. Pepe Martinez starts seventh, and Stevie Ray in eighth. Then row 5 has Miroslav Juracek on the inside. Adam Bradshaw starts in 10th.
Starting off row 6 is going to be David Garrido Sanchez next to Nico Schuck, taking a good starting position for the S2 driver. We have Michael Dobeck in the Baker's Dozen position alongside Brett Holton in 14th. Hugh Haycox is going to start 15th with Steve Elston in 16th position. Samuel Dick is going to start off 17th on row 9 next to Dominic Bureau in 18th. Edward Doherty and Michael Shaw are going to round out your top 20.
Antonio Reese was not able to improve, of course, at the end, so he stays 21st. Aaron Bagley in 22nd. Then it's Fred Desai starting P23. Ramon Regalado with a 24th under quali. Brian Short, 25th. P26 goes to Bob Kern. Tom Gredwell's after him in 27th position. Then Jeff Jacobson in 28th. Mark Ehan will start 29th, and Wayne Palmer in 30th.
31st is going to start with Paolo Breme, and then we have Jeff Cantor starting off 32nd. Bill Daly is going to start off in the 17th row alongside Gary Woolbolt, and then we have Whitney Strickland, Emil Orza, Telmo Amaral, and Giulio Forcolin are going to round out your field.
3 drivers unable to put a time in. I can say that Almiral still is not in the session, so it looks like we should have a field of 37 instead of 38 here today. Not that that'll make too much of a difference here with the Weekend Warriors, brought to you, of course, once again by Sim Stickers. And if you'd like to check out that sponsor, there at simstickers.co.uk. They're lining up for a short pace lap, thankfully, around here. They start just before 130R. There's Gaspers, our pole sitter, lining up behind the pace car, as we're only waiting on Juracek, who gets out there. So Telmar Almiral not showing should mean that we should get started here pretty soon.
Joe, it's a little surprising to see Gary Wobolt, the Spec 2 P2 driver in Spec 2 right now. He's starting in the 34th position, way back in the field, so that's going to be difficult for him on the points. So as these cars roll off, he's going to have a challenge to get forward and get some points today.
You might want to hang back a bit as well, because it could get messy, especially into the first corner, which is tricky in the Spec Racer Fords. So they trundle their way forward at 40 miles per hour behind that Porsche pace car. David Gaspers going to weave them through the Casio triangle. Pace car will peel off a little bit early because that pit entry happening just through this final turn here before the front stretch. He'll have control of the field. Just Gaspers waits. He's going to check them up a little bit, giving it time. They're all the way onto the front stretch now, still not accelerating away. He's given it a long time to go here. Green flag is now out. And Gaspers, not the greatest of run down to the first corner.
It's complete chaos, Joe.
Yeah, everybody is incredibly packed together. And in fact, we've already got 3 wide towards the front of the field, let alone the back, which is 4 wide in some situations. So one driver is off to the inside.
That's Edward Doherty.
Everybody else is... Oh, no. Everybody else looks like they've managed to make it through, but Doherty did hit the Armco in that process. That
is Edward Doherty, the leader in the Spec 2 championship, who got sent off in a 4-wide situation through turn 1.
Well, we thought it would be tricky, and it certainly was, but that could have been so much worse. You can see they're still side by side in a few cases through. The S is not where you want to be losing time here early on. And they're coming up to the Degners, another very difficult corner in this car.
Yeah, it's pretty much single file out through the top 10, but then once you get down below that, you got a couple people who are still going too wide through the Degners, which is really difficult. But David Gaspers doing a good job to pull away a little bit from Jerry McGreevy, but he's going to have a good opportunity on the draft if he can hold on through these next couple of corners.
Through the hairpin and out towards Spoon Curve. This is a longer run than you might imagine, especially in the Spec Racer. McAreevy continuing to give chase as Sadro now fallen to third, has just slotted in and is running his laps. He knows the game out here. He knows that there is a pit stop in order. Fuel is needed, and he doesn't necessarily need that second place back immediately.
Jerry McGreevy has got a good run here on to the back stretch. David Gaspers also has a run. Daniel Sadro losing a little bit of gap, but it looks like Jerry's going to have a good draft here going into 130R.
Wow, look at them snake down the straight. Everybody wanting to be right underneath the gearbox of the car ahead. But McAreevy lifts big time by the time they hit 130R, so he's not going to challenge it quite yet. He could get aggressive here into the Casio triangle. But no, he's not interested right now. Top 4, top 5. In fact, it gets all the way back to Stevie Ray before we saw any sort of attempts at passes. Most everybody just running their own for the first portion of this round in Japan.
Yep, everybody's doing pretty good. Brett Holton smoked his tires a little bit coming into the final chicane, but he's back going now. So looks like that top 4 has kind of broken away a little bit, and we have a pass possibly for 5th. No, it's a defensive move from Joe Aguilar from trying to hold off David Garrido Sanchez.
Oh, and McAreevy already off on lap 2, out of turn 2. He does hit the wall with that. And it was Doherty's his teammate, too. So that is...
Yeah, that is significant damage, Joe. He might have to tow.
These cars not set up for the 1-2 complex there on Doherty's team. In fact, let's watch from Ed's perspective now that we've seen the replay there on McAreevy. In fact, McAreevy's so damaged, I can tell you live right now, he's having to work his way through the grass to get back to the pits.
Yeah, so Doherty just going to the inside of a three-wide situation and just gets pinched out there. You know, there's nothing really anyone could have done in that situation. It's three wide at that point, and most spotters, unless you have a live spotter, which most of these drivers probably don't, you're not going to realize that it's four wide in that scenario. So the drivers ahead of him just assuming it's three wide and taking their lines, not seeing him there. But he's now got his spare car and is back out on track.
That's going to be an extra pit stop. Meanwhile, we had a change of position between Billy Bob Wright and Sanchez. Sanchez up to fifth, Wright demoted to sixth. Behind them, lots of action happening between Ian Haycox, Juracek, and Bradshaw. And they're going to sort it out with Haycox up in eighth, ninth to Juracek, and 10th to Bradshaw. They're not done yet. Look at this, the back of the train. That is Hugh Haycox. So it is a Haycox sandwich out here climbing up the hill towards 130R.
Yep, everyone doing a good job just staying in line, getting that draft. The front pack just holding station right now, but Ian Haycox looking for a move there. He's going to make it work on Adam Bradshaw.
Actually, that was Juracek getting past Ian Haycox, so he was demoted a position. And they come up to the Casio Triangle. Nobody going to try anything with them. Back behind, you can see it's getting a little clogged up with Nico Schuch, Michael Dobek, and Steve Elson, though. No one changed position there as well, but there were some big looks to the inside.
Oh, we have a big accident that's happened. It looks like that was Paulo Breme, I believe. No, it was not. That is Michael Shaw that just went on his lid.
Well, almost on his lid. He somehow managed to balance the car perfectly on its side. Couldn't do it if you tried. The 247 got him and then got hit once more. I didn't see who it was.
Yeah, that's a hard position to hold for sure.
It was vaguely who clipped him. And then the second car just checking as we've come back live.
Oh, and Mark Guillen has gone around to the back of the field.
Guillen's going to drop to 33rd with that mistake. I see a little damage on the left front, and I'm not sure that he hit anything. Looks like he did hit the back of his car on the wall very lightly with that. Don't need to go to a replay as we come back live now. Up towards the front of the field, Gasper's still ahead of Sadro, who are starting to break away from Martinez in third position. Then we've got our Spec 2 leader in that class, Joe Aguilar, still holding on to fourth.
Yeah, Joe Aguilar doing a really good job holding station behind Pepe Vasquez Martinez, and they've actually pulled this big gap to David Garrido Sanchez in the fifth position. They've got about 2.25 seconds over them right now, so a good gap.
Sanchez is going to start either needing to hustle or use Billy Bob Wright to push himself forward. We ride on board with Aguilar, giving chase on Martinez. And up ahead, there's a battle between Sadro and Gaspers now. He's starting to put the hammer down, looking to take the lead back. Gaspers backs out of it and pulls in behind Sadro.
Now at this stage, Joe, do you start thinking about fuel? Is this a fuel play from Gaspers?
I suspect it might be, which surprises me that Sadro took the opportunity, because usually David has the legs on Daniel when it comes to raw pace. His best hope typically is to try and get sneaky with the pit stops, but nope, Gasper's not thinking about fuel. I'm surprised by this. He's going to try around the outside down into turn one, but if they go through side by side, this could end poorly. Daniel thinks better of it. He lifts and the 51 slots into P2.
It's definitely possible that Daniel's just sizing up Gaspers, just trying to see whether or not he can make a pass. Now he knows he can, so maybe he's going to be okay sitting behind Gaspers for a little while and saving some fuel.
Had a change of position between Ian Haycox and Adam Bradshaw. Ian moves himself into ninth.
And Bob Kern has gone around in turn one. Looks like he just lost it on his own, I believe, going through that first turn. No, actually, Dominic Bureau is slow as well.
Well, you're right. Bob Kern did go in all on his own, and there was a separate incident with Bureau. Two completely unrelated things.
Yeah, Bureau just got in behind Vogel and had to hit the brakes really hard through the center of that corner. And the Spec Racer 4s really like to rotate under braking, so that just got him loose. Whereas Bob Kern looks like he just outbraked himself into the first turn.
We come back live. Something's happened to Elson that he's lost spots on this lap. Ooh,
Yeah,
he messed up the Degners.
Yes, he did. He went off in Degner 1. And wow, he kind of just drifted it around Degner 2 as well.
Eventually refound the track once again, but this demotes him to 16th. He's again our second place driver in the championship as we watch the number 42 in a nice little fight. This is Dobek just in front of him, and almost contact between himself and Regalado, the blue car to the inside, the number 88. He's looking to try and get the run off the corner, and it's going to be a drag race. Brett Holton in the popcorn position behind both of them.
Regalado with a lot of good speed into this corner, but Dobek just holding his line on the outside. Both of these drivers very equal, very even right now, but looks like Regalado's got the line, but Dobek's just going to hold it there on the outside. Regalado's going to give him room. Here they go, drag racing down the backstretch.
Yep, breaking down hard into the Casio triangle. Ooh, that outside line that Holton was looking for opened it up for Steve Elson, who couldn't complete the pass, but certainly gets very close to the back of the number 9.
This probably isn't over. They're going to go down the front stretch here. Let's see whether or not he makes another move.
I think we're seeing a move from Dobek there too, ducking to the inside. As they come up into 1, he's going to get it right back from Regalado, but behind them, Steve Elson does indeed send one in. Goes way wide on the exit at 2, though, and this might hand the position right back. Indeed, it does.
In the background, we see Antonio Rees getting passed by Aaron Vogel. This just a replacement of what happened the last lap, so these guys in their own little battle back there.
Meanwhile, we've jumped up towards the front. This is Juracek in a tight fight with Ian Haycox, looking to get that one back from earlier. He's not willing to risk it into Degner 1 this early in the race. We're only 10 minutes in, and the pit window is starting to open now for any drivers who want to come in early. Expect the likes of Stevie Ray and Steve Elson to be likely to come in.
Yeah, but with the gap that you're getting because of the draft, the amount of pull you get down these straights, it might actually not work out for you, because you can save fuel going down these straights if you decide to let off the gas a little bit, and the draft is going to pull you faster than you could drive by yourself. So there's a double benefit for staying out at this point.
See our leaders swinging around Spoon Curve. It's been a pair of 2s up at the front. Sadro and Gaspers fighting for the lead. Martinez and Aguilar settling out the last spot on the podium. This time up the hill, Sadro doesn't look interested in passing.
And Aguilar doesn't look interested in passing either. Aguilar had a really good run up to 130R, but has decided against it and has backed off. So interesting developments here. Looks like a couple of folks are saving fuel. Billy Wright has done the same thing behind David Garrido Sanchez. Sorry, the other way around.
Yeah, Billy Bob Wright made the pass, but it's not over as they almost come together into the Casio triangle. Awful close, racing to one another. Bobble off the corner from Billy Bob Wright, but he's got track position as they come onto the front stretch. If Sanchez can pull enough of a draft, he could come back on the attack once again as we ride on board with him.
Oh, and he's going to go for the pass now. He's looking up the inside. Here they go into turn 1. Someone's going to have to give here.
Billy Wright, he lets him have it. Billy Bob down to 6. Speaking of rights, I called it. Stevie Ray into the pits. We've gotten to know him.
Oh, no!
Ian Haycox, Adam Bradshaw involved in that. Miroslav Juracek. 3 drivers who were all battling hard. I think Ian just sent it in hard and lost the rear. Look at it right there.
It's so easy to do into turn 1 in these Spec Racer Fords. I'm surprised that Juracek didn't see it happening and back out. He just kept driving like Ian was going to save it.
I think maybe he did try to steer to the inside a little bit. Ian Haycox unfortunately had to take a tow for that. So did Juracek, who we saw actually went up and over because of that. Did Bradshaw come in? No, Bradshaw's still out.
I can also report that Michael Dobek lost the braking into the final chicane and has significant left side damage right now. He decided to stay out on that lap. I'm a little bit surprised because they have that extra car that they can use. I'm surprised he didn't come in, do his pit stop, and just get that extra car the last lap.
Might not be as familiar with the strategy here. So watch the 42 continue on ahead of the 77 of Antonio Reese. Much cleaner car, so could make easy pickings of him on the backstretch.
And up ahead of them, we have Brett Holton going on Steve Elson as they go through these corners here. It looks like Steve's just going to give up the position, not interested in fighting back at the moment. He's got a little bit of front end damage, but he's got a butter run down the backstretch. Let's see whether he sits in line or whether he tries to make a pass here.
He's going to bump draft. He's going to stay right in line and get a little bit of a run. And behind them, I'm very curious, and I would love to ask Ramon Regalado if his paint is an homage to the old Mark Donahue paint that was in, I believe it was Trans Am.
That'd be a serious throwback for sure. It looks like Elson's looking to the inside of Brett. Brett's going to give him room, which actually compromises his exit from the chicane. But Steven has to back off a little bit. No one's going to take to the pits this time. But Regalado's got a really good run here on Elson. He's going to take it down the inside.
Oh, and the lead has changed hands in the meantime. It's not even over because Gaspers and Sadro side by side into the S's. Sadro's going to fight it, but eventually he's going to have to give way because Gaspers is ahead.
Oh no, Sanchez has gone around. David Garrido Sanchez looks like he's hit the inside wall coming out of the hairpin at the back of the track.
And then apparently we had another incident. I believe it was with Holton. There's Sanchez just catching it after the car goes off track. Ooh. And Holton got into it with Elson.
It looks like Regalado, that pass that was trying to be attempted to be made, and it looks like Regalado's lost it again in front of Holton.
And then a third car gets into them. I didn't quite see who it was. Yeah, that's Antonio Reese. Oh, just as he was about to get off the track, unfortunately, Regalado was right in his racing line. Well, that is a number of fast drivers that are unfortunately given a big setback. If any of them can limp their way back to the pits, they're not out of it yet, but those who had to tow will certainly have to settle for a bad finish.
So Brett Holton just can't get his car together. He spun a couple more times on this lap, and he's going to really struggle to make it back to pit lane after that incident. So something's definitely up with the handling of his car.
We're almost halfway now. So for those who are having problems, there's at least some mercy on the horizon. The battle for third is still very close. Now, Aguilar has since taken it back since we last looked. He is ahead of Martinez. And Aguilar, let's see, where is Hugh Haycox in regards? Because Aguilar leads our Spec 2, and Hugh is in second. Hugh's a long ways back, so Joe is actually pretty safe here and is going to get a huge haul of points for that Spec 2 championship.
Oh, it looks like Stevie Ray has gone around again this time. Looks like coming into the back stretch. So another incident for him.
Let's take a look at the replay. At the same time that was happening, Jeff Jacobson seems to have hit the wall in 130R. Ooh, is the grass, the AstroTurf there on the exit for the Texas driver. No stopping it before it hit the barriers, sadly. Elson is in now. He probably won't be the driver who comes back with the lead pitter status, though, we expect. Of course, I guess Stevie Ray was the one that should have inherited that, but he had his incident, so maybe Steve Elson will come out.
And Joe, while we were looking at all those incidents, Pepe Vasquez Martinez actually had a spin in turn 1 and lost the position to Billy Wright and lost significant amount of time to both he and Aguilar.
Yeah, just all on his own. The number 12 lost the rear into turns 1 and 2, came to a halt and had to get it going. Oh, and what happened there? Was that Hugh Haycox? Hugh Haycox went for a wild ride. This is great from on board here.
Oh my gosh, look at his hands. He's working so hard. He's trying to save it through both Degnas there. Wow.
Break out the lumberjack song. He was sawing back and forth and eventually got it back on track, but he's down to 8th from that.
And it looks like Daniel Sadro's going to go for the lead again on David Gaspers.
He's got the inside. Gaspers takes it too wide through 130R. A little less scary in these cars than it is in some others. Still not the greatest of moves. And as they break down into the Casio triangle, Gaspers looks a little bit stronger on the binders.
Oof. Yeah, Daniel just getting a little bit loose there on the exit. He's going to lose a bit of time, and that's going to destroy his opportunity to attack into 1. But Daniel doing a good job of trying to get Gaspers pressure him a little bit. This is turning out to be a good race for the lead.
The driver who is now our highest pitter is Michael Dobeck. He's down in 21st after qualifying 13th today. Number 42, we know, does have a little bit of damage as we watch the leaders continue to battle through 1 and 2 and now through the S's.
And Hugh Haycox has decided to pit.
Maybe just to collect his thoughts after quite a save back there.
It looks
Ryan
like Daniel
Short is in.
It looks like Daniel Sadro has a good understanding of how the Spec Racer 4 deals with the S's. He can actually gain a little bit on Gaspers through those. But then as we come to approach the Degnas, this is where it seems like Gaspers has a better understanding of the car under the high speeds. He's able to get it to kind of drift out a little bit on braking while still being able to maintain good torque and good speed out of the Spec Racer 4. So very impressive car handling from both of these guys.
Yeah, I've been pretty wowed by Sadro and how he picks up speed in just about any car that he's hopped into here on the broadcasts. It's no mean feat to stay with David Gaspers, because we've seen him be competitive also, once again, in the Lotus 49, another Weekend Warrior driver who occasionally jumps over there. Little bit of poking out into the fresh air for Daniel Sadro coming up to Spoon.
I can report that Wayne Palmer had a little bit of a off in the S's. No need to go back for a replay for it, but he has dropped about 6 positions and now resumes back on track behind Hugh Haycox.
Up at the front with these two that we're watching, Aguilar and Ryder continuing to fall backwards. They're about 6.5 seconds behind. So I don't think that Gaspers and Sadro are resting on their laurels. They are pulling away and continuing to extend the gap. I'm guessing maybe, Adam, in hopes that they can fight without having to worry about a third car late in the race.
I think that's the hope for sure, but these guys definitely aren't saving fuel. So if someone back there is saving a little bit of fuel and can do a shorter stop by a couple of seconds, that's going to close that gap significantly. But it's going to have to be either Aguilar or Wright, and possibly Vasquez Martinez if he decides that he can do that as well. But after his spin, that's probably unlikely. Man, Sadro just drawing ever closer down that front stretch.
Yeah, and we've seen him challenge into these first few turns before, but not this time through. Looks like Martinez is pitting now.
That's a good opportunity for him after his mistake. It's time to take to the pits and, recollect your thoughts, to get the tires cooled down a little bit, and then get out there and start attacking a little bit more.
Number 12 hits his stall and should return the lead of the cars that pitted thus far, as he was well ahead of Hugh Haycox before. I think we're getting a few more stoppers here as we're getting near the end of the window. Mark Gehan is coming in as we watch the leaders go through the Degners.
Wayne Palmer comes in as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Whitney Strickland come in as well, but no, Whitney's going to stay out, I believe. Yes. So the leaders still battling it out, and they have not pit yet.
Should be pretty soon that we see them in. They've only got about 6 more minutes in this pit window, most likely, maybe a little bit less than that. This could be a bit of a thirsty track in itself, with all the long, flat-out sections that these cars have.
And the longer they stay out, the more fuel they have to take. Now, granted, the longest pit stops that we've seen have been around 42 seconds so far, and that would give them about 12 seconds over the nearest pitter. So it's going to be, it shouldn't be close for them, but if they stay out too much longer, it definitely will be.
Up to 130R and through, this time not side by side. They're now up to 8 seconds over Aguilar. They are outpacing him by wide margins. This is where the pit entry will be. Out of Casio, off to your right. Neither takers.
It's getting very interesting to see who pits and who doesn't. Nobody in the top 10 have pit yet, as Nico Schuck is under pressure from David Garrido Sanchez after Sanchez spins.
Schuck holding down the second place in the Spec 2, but here comes Sanchez with a great move to get on by. Gaspers has a problem, as that was Martinez heading in, or Sanchez heading in rather.
An unusual mistake from Gaspers, just got a little bit hot into turn 1, and that allowed Sadro to go through.
We're thinking he might have had problems downshifting into the corner. Not a place where you want the car to get unsteady from a missed shift.
Alright, so Gasper's shifter problems come back to bite him again. This is one of the most difficult things about the Spec Racer Ford. You do have to blip on your downshifts, and most of these drivers are running full manual, so it can be really difficult to get the car to downshift when you're going into corners like that. So that's coming back to bite him again.
This is the largest lead that Sadro has enjoyed thus far this race. It is roughly a second ahead of Gaspers. Once again, he's closing it very fast. He's clearly got the pace. It's just he can't seem to shake Sadro once he's ahead. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw... Actually, you know what? I wonder if Gaspers should be thinking about pitting this time and then just simply jump him in the stops.
So Samuel Dick was our latest pitter, and he had a pit time delta of 55.6. Now, granted, he might have had damage that he wanted to get fixed and decided not to take the spare car. But if that is an accurate representation, our other pitters that have pitted recently are in the 47s. So this gap's going to be pretty close when they pit and come out between themselves and Pepe Vasquez Martinez, our first pitter.
Yeah, he's 9th overall. But we're waiting on about 10 cars to come in for a stop. Again, they can usually make about a half an hour. So what does Sadro do this time? Both of them in.
Now, granted, they have to take less fuel than the other folks did because they have less time to go on the track. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Here we go.
I've got to go all the way to the front of the pit lane. It's a long wait for that. You can see Aguilar pitting.
Yeah, Pepe on the run to 130R now, so we'll keep track of that as they come down the pit road.
There's a 221R Spec 2 leader. And Sadro's out very quickly. Gasper's out a little bit longer, about a second quicker for Sadro. Boy, the 51 looking like he is in a very good position to pull one over on Gaspers in a straight fight. That's not often that we see that.
No, definitely not. Sadro out with a good 2-second lead at this point, and that's going to put them quite a bit ahead. Joe Aguilar actually is going to come out. Yeah, so it looks like everything's just kind of evening out right now. Pepe only up 2 positions because of the pit stops so far. But there are a few people who still have yet to pit. One of them being our current leader, Nico Schuck.
Neil Orza is the other one. Dominique Bureau has got to come in, and Jeff Cantor's just in right now. I think Whitney Strickland, the other one, is probably going to be coming in themselves. Yep, Whitney is heading in. So 3 drivers left who can make it to just about 10 minutes to go. These must have been our ones that we're saving because a lot of other drivers didn't feel safe trying to make that extra run around to lap 12.
It also could just be that how their position on the track and where they were in traffic, they felt like they're being held up or that they didn't have a good opportunity for drafts, so they came in at that point as well.
Chute coming around Spoon Corner and up the hill. Sadro's actually within about 5.5 seconds of Nico, so probably not going to catch him, but still glad that Nico's coming in so that he doesn't have to deal with the car on an alternate strategy. Orza, however, is in front of Aguilar. That is for position, even though they are on-off strategy compared to one another.
Yeah, Aguilar is basically struggling a little bit because of some rear end damage that's affecting his aero. And so that's allowing him, that's forcing him not to catch up as much to Emil as he would hope to on these straights. So Emil likely to come in this lap or next. Let's see what he does here. He's going to come in this lap.
So did Shuk and Dominique Bureau. The last driver that needs fuel also comes in. That's as far as they go. Almost perfectly at 10 minutes for Dominique. That means our pit stops are settled. So as we head over to Steve Elson once more, these are 2 longtime veterans of this series trying to sort out a top 10. Elson in front in the Union Jack car with Jerry McAreevy behind.
Yeah, McAreevy, after his spin early on, trying to recover positions, fighting now with Elson for a top 10. Looks like Elson's going to give him the inside line, but with the cars coming out of pit road, this could get dicey.
He's going to get by, and Elson doesn't fight it. He lifts a little early to let him through. Those drivers now returning to the track. Whoa, as that is Ian Haycock's going off, but he's laps down, so I think he's just trying to stay out of everybody's way.
But McAreevy also went off there, came in a little bit too hot into turn 1. And now Fred Dasax has gone around. Oof.
Both making mistakes on their own. Desai is in 18th. That was the same corner. Boy, 1 and 2 has really been calamity corner. We've seen so many, just not even with other cars around, Adam. It seems like even driving on your own, it has been a nightmare.
Yeah, 1 and 2 is difficult in any car to get right, but in these Spec Racer 4s, this car really does have a tendency to try and swap ends on you, and so you see those guys going wide because they're saving the car from a worse fate. But as we're looking right now, this lead gap is closed significantly. It used to be 2 seconds. It's now just going to cross under half a second by the end of this straight.
Gasper's going to make Sadro work for this one. These two have started to become longtime rivals here in the Weekend Warriors. Sadro has yet to get himself a Spec 1 championship, while Gaspers has multiple. He is now right behind Daniel. The number 51 has a mirror full of Diatch driver, and he's covering off the middle of the track. Gaspers going to take to the outside, even though there's space to the inside. Side by side into turns 1 and 2, and Gaspers has the lead back, out breaking his rival.
Yeah, you know, I honestly, here comes Sadro back around the inside. Looks like Gaspers a little bit too deep into the corner, but can he outbrake him into the S's? No, Sadro's going to retain that position. And as they go through the S's, they're side by side. Gasper's putting down the throttle right now. He's going to have the better line here through this next set of S's. He's actually going to cut Sadro off, and they're going to go through nose to tail.
Back to second for you. The number 51 had a valiant effort at it. They've still got a big gap to the cars behind, 9 seconds to Joe Aguilar, a Spec 2 leader who's still looking at a podium, and in fact is incredibly safe from Martinez after his problems. Another 10 seconds back to Pepe in the number 12.
Yeah, as I was about to say, when you're going into that first turn, actually with the Spec Racer Ford and how difficult it is to break through turns, I would have actually given Gaspers the inside line there and hope that he overshoots it like he has in the past. But Daniel decided to take the inside and ended up almost working out for him. So as we're taking a look with Steve Elson trying to go on Emil right now, Emil cutting him off a little bit, but taking the racing line. No harm, no foul in that particular interchange.
The last few pit stops promoted them. It is now for 8th place instead of 10th that they're fighting over. Definitely don't want to try it into the Degners. Don't forget McAreevy behind them after his off. Speaking of offs, Emil taking a very wide line coming out of the Degners.
Yeah, Steve Elson not really able to capitalize on that opportunity. Hopefully he can get a good run now as they go towards the backstretch.
Elson's close. I think he... Oh, and Sadro's looking for the lead back. He doesn't have it, though. Oh, was Sadro in front of him before? I'm looking, and Sadro was still behind up the backstretch. Because I thought Gaspers had managed to keep the position. Must have happened a while ago then.
Yeah, so Gaspers is able to maintain the position ever since passing Sadro in the S's, and Sadro now is trying to challenge him back through the S's. We know that this is one of Gaspers' strong spots, but we also know that Sadro's good through these first 2 S's right here. But they're actually starting to catch lap traffic, Joe, which is not something that we deal with that often in this series, at least on these longer courses.
Certainly not. And that is Hugh Haycox. That's the good news. He knows how to handle this car, and he knows how to deal with the leaders, so he should be able to hop out of the way. Oof, man, a lot of curb, though, as we rode on board with Sadro coming out of the S's. He's got to be careful about it. This car seems to like to pogo. It's almost like a Porsche in that way.
Jerry McAreevy's come in for a second pit stop, Joe.
Wonder if he short-fueled it. Ooh, this is awful for the 67. Coming into his stall. Well, if he did short fuel it, he short fueled it by a ton because it was about 6 seconds. As Dominique Bureau has another problem. This is the second time we've seen him go off in 1 and 2.
Yeah, look at it just snap around on him. There's nothing he could do. Fortunately, he keeps it off of the barriers and is able to get it out of the gravel trap. But it's just really difficult to keep this Spec Racer 4 from swapping ends on you.
Yeah, he managed to get it halted before the tires, which is the good news for him. Even though you can hit these cars a little bit and keep going. But we're watching this battle up at the front with the final 3 minutes left. We're going to be 2 to go at the line.
I thought for sure Sadro was going to try and go inside there through 130R, but decides better of it. Gasper staying way outside and has to weave back to the inside. Sadro may be thinking about a last lap opportunity here. They're going to have 2 laps to go here.
After what you said about Sadro scoping out Gaspers, I started to think exactly that he was seeing what the draft would do on the backstretch, how far back he needs to be able to make the overtake. The only thing is, if he makes that overtake on the run up to 130R, Gaspers could try and retake it back into the Casio triangle under braking, which that should be exciting if that's how it winds up. It's really going to be sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're Daniel Sadro.
And the other...
Ooh, problems with Bradshaw. This is coming out of Spoon Curve. He gets it going again in a puff of smoke. Not sure if he hit the wall. I can't tell from my angle. Let's see on the replay. I think he did. On board, similar to what we saw with Stevie Ray. Off into the grass, and there's no saving it there.
Yeah, I just got that right rear tire into the grass, spun the tire, and that sent him around into the wall, unfortunately.
Leaders still dealing with more traffic. They just overtook for Colin. Next up is Hugh Haycox. good news after that, it is... Oh, no, I guess it's only a little bit up to Michael Shaw. I'm not sure that they'll catch him, but Michael Shaw has about 30 seconds up to the next car, so there's a ways before they have to deal with anything after Michael. Hugh, in the meantime, pulls off between the hairpin and Spoon. Easily lets them through.
Joe, what I was going to say before is that while Daniel Sadro was sizing up David Gaspers was sizing up Sadro. He understands the distance that's necessary. Wow, Gaspers getting extremely loose as they go through these corners. Both of them getting loose as they go through. Hugh Haycock's getting loose as well and losing significant amounts of time in the back. And so Daniel Sadro, he's got a run right now, but it's not going to be quite enough. He's trying to figure out where his passing opportunity is going to be on that final lap.
Yeah, I think both of these drivers are pushing to the limit in the other corners now just to make sure that they get as much out of this as they can. With an 18-second lead over Aguilar behind them in third, I think our focus needs to stay on these two because the white flag now waves here in Japan. And Gaspers has got to hold off Sadro for one more lap. Daniel is still looking for his first victory this season despite leading the points.
Daniel's going to have to fight really hard here. David Gaspers is not going to want to let him by. And now that he's left it to the last lap, there's no surprises. Gaspers is going to be ready for anything. As long as Gaspers can keep it clean, he's got a good shot at winning this.
Checkers or wreckers for Sadro so far. I guess checkers or don't show up because he has 2 no-shows that are zeros, and he has 2 wins out of the 4 rounds. Here in round 5, he may just continue the trend, and Sadro maybe halt that. Come out of the S's, and he's staying close. I'm not sure that he's staying close enough. I think he's going to have to be a little bit tighter once they get to Spoon.
He's definitely been better through Spoon than Gaspers has in recent laps. Both of these drivers throwing away some incidents now as they get close to the end of this race.
Up to hairpin, another potential place for a pass from time to time. Not so for these two. Not looking for it here. Sadro still
Gaspers
riding the tire tracks.
Deep. He went deep into the corner. He lost a little bit of time there. That gives Sadro a good opportunity down into Spoon.
Gets it down to 0.3 of a second, about 2 car lengths between them. The 23 is going to have a great run, but the same thing with a 51. Coming out of Spoon Curve here, he is going to have to mash that throttle as soon as the car is going to stick on the track. Ooh, he's looking very, very good, though. Coming off the corner, up the backstretch to 130R. Sadro 0.2 behind. He's reeling him in. Gaspers knows it. At first, he stays to the inside. Now in the middle of the track. Sadro to the inside. He's going to give him that side because he thinks he could maybe block him down into the Casio triangle. And look at that, stronger around the outside. Nothing doing for Daniel Sadro with the bravery of Gaspers keeping the lead through the Casio triangle. Last-ditch effort, maybe. Nothing there for the 51. And Gaspers continues his trend of wins when he shows up here in the Weekend Warriors.
It looks like Pepe Vasquez Martinez is going to take third place due to Joe Aguilar having an incident, which we'll take a look at later. But a poor event for Joe Aguilar and a fantastic, fantastic turn of events for Pepe Vasquez Martinez.
And great news for Nico Schuk. The 5th place driver in the 287 now inherits the lead in the Spec 2. And remember, he was on our top 5 in that championship. So he is going to get himself a nice top 5 here today. And is Aguilar actually out of fuel? He's very, very slow.
Yes, Aguilar is out of fuel for sure.
Side-by-side action coming up the backstretch, as well as ahead of them, Kern and Bureau duking it out for 10th place as we watch these 4 now sorted out behind them, all breaking into the Casio triangle. Desai almost shoved off course by Jacobson, but he's going to get the launch off the corner. He has to go the long way around, and that might be the inches that Jacobson needs. It's going to be close, but Jacobson takes it. tight fight to the line between them. Bradshaw was in there as well as Brian Short following them home. McAreevy all the way down in 21st, I'm seeing, after all is said and done. 22nd, actually.
Looks like Aguilar crosses the line. He's going to come home in P18 after running out of fuel in the final lap.
Utter disappointment for the driver that was leading Spec 2 nearly the entire race. But that's going to take us to break here at Suzuka. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you can see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back here to Suzuka. We just watched round 5 of the Weekend Warriors, and in the end, David Gaspers won his 3rd out of 3 attended races. And round 5, he's still undefeated, but he's got a hill to climb on the points. Daniel Sadro followed him home to minimize that damage with a 2nd place and gave him what for to try and get it away. Now, Pepe Vasquez Martinez took 3rd, but he wasn't there for most of the race. Billy Bob right behind him in P4, transitioning well here to the Spec Racer. And Nico Schuk winning in the Spec 2 race, 5th overall. He'll be happy with that. Michael Dobeck with some damage on the car winds up managing to climb up to 6th from 13th. How about Emil Orzga? Didn't get a lap in, 36 on the grid and 7th in the end. So that's some good pace from the 96 car. Steve Elson finishes in 8th. Aaron Vagley takes P9 today. That's actually a good 2nd place for Spec 2 for Aaron. And Sam Dick takes a top 10.
Bob Kern coming home in P11, Spec 2 P3, as well as Dominic Bureau, Spec 2 P4, coming home in 12th position overall. Jeff Jacobson is going to come home in 13th, with Brian Short in 14th. Paolo Bremi comes home in 15th, with Joe Aguilar, after running out of fuel in the final lap, coming home in 16th position. Bill Daly, 17th. Brett Holton is 18th. Wayne Palmer coming home in 19th position, with Jerry McAreevy, after an early incident, is going to come home 20th position.
Tom Gradwell with the 21st today. Woolbolt driver who did get a qualifying time in and was 34th, eventually wound up in 22nd. Persistence pays off. Mark Gehan with the 23rd today. Jeff Cantor behind him in P24. Last driver on the lead lap, amazingly, despite being on his side at one point, is Michael Shaw with the 25th. From here you get to cars that had big problems. Hugh Haycock's 26th, Phil Cullen 27th, Ian Haycock's 28th. Then it's Fred Desai in P29, Adam Bradshaw in 30th, and Whitney Strickland did finish but was 5 laps down. David Sanchez, a DNF today, in 32nd. Stevie Ray, same, did not finish the race. Regalado, Reese, Juracek, Doherty, or all did not finishes, and Telmore Almiral was a did not start. So we've got our winner ready to talk to us, David Gaspers, winning another race, 3 out of 3 that you've attended, but it sounds like you're still having some technical problems. We noticed that your shifter almost cost you there for a moment.
Yeah, I think it dropped me into neutral 5 or 6 times. Always fourth gear or second. That's pretty annoying since, the obvious ones, I guess, were turn 1 and spoon. Those are the corners where you don't want to be completely off the throttle in this car.
Certainly not. We saw so many drivers spin all on their own around this track. I mean, how would you rate this car or this combo, if I can get words, this car track combo in difficulty in terms of stuff you've experienced here on iRacing?
There are definitely a lot of tracks that are harder to drive. It's just that you have to get used to the track and how to take the corners. After that, it's not that hard anymore, but harder than many tracks. Yeah, but I think it's a great combo once you get used to it.
Had a bit of a Schumacher versus Alonso moment there through 130R, where you were around the outside, but you made it stay with it and kept Sadro behind you in a critical moment. How did you know how to take that corner so far out from the apex?
I know Dan would leave enough space for one car, so I just gave him enough room for one car. And normally, if you have the longer line and don't have to steer as much, you can take most. So yeah, I just tried that.
It all worked out in the end. Brilliant driving once again for your 3rd win of the season. Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
David Gasper is our winner here today, and Adam's going to be talking to Dan Sadro, the other side of that equation.
Yeah, Daniel, after taking a little bit less fuel than everybody else, you came out in first and then had to duke it out with David Gaspers in those last couple laps. How was that fight?
Oh, it was great fun. I knew David had the pace on me. He usually does, but this is a pretty good track for him, and I knew he was going to catch up with me. It was just how long it was going to take, and then the draft really helped me stay with him, and we were able to, I was able to stay with him, and get my nose in a couple places. It was fun, good fun.
Yeah, and on that final lap going through 130R side by side, that must have been difficult to handle the car at that point. How was it for you?
Well, my heart was beating so much I don't know. Still shaking from it, really. No, it was good, and we've duked it out enough that we were really good at giving each other a good amount of space in those situations. So it was scary, but it was fun for sure.
Awesome. And so looking forward to next week, what are your thoughts going forward? You still maintain the championship points lead, but with David getting some more wins, are you hoping that you can just keep these second places coming up and keep ahead of him?
Oh, I really don't run for championships. I run each week to do the best that I can do. So if David's here and I finish second, I think that's usually a success in my book. Unfortunately, I don't believe I'll be here for Summit Point. It's a really fun track. I just have some family fun things to do, and family comes first.
Definitely. Well, Daniel, it was great seeing you race today and great to have you back on GSRC. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. You're great.
That was Daniel Sadro, P2 overall. And now we have Billy Bob Wright in P4 overall.
Yay, man. I was so thrilled to get the 4th.
That was an impressive drive, Billy Bob. We got to talk to Dan Sadro during the Lotus 49 race yesterday, and I asked him about bringing Chris Murakami over from the Weekend Warriors. Seems like the reverse is true over here. You've jumped over from that Lotus 49 over to the Spec racer. Were you influenced by Dan in any way there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dan, as anybody that races with him knows, a great guy and a true sportsman. So I figured it must be something nice over here in the Spec Racer Ford if he's been racing here so long. So when I first started in the service 10 years ago, I raced this car a lot. It's a car I really like to drive because you drive it with the throttle. But for sure, the reason I'm back is because of Dan, and he's been helping me a little bit with how to get this thing around now. And so far, it's working out good.
He's a good teacher then. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see some pretty hard battling that you had with Sanchez out there. In fact, it looked like it came to contact at one point.
Well, somebody got into the back of me. I can't remember who the driver was, but basically, it was a miracle I saved the car. I remembered what Dan told me. No matter what happens in the car, the correct response is more gas. And I did that, and that worked out. So, but yeah, we had some good side-by-side racing with several people. And, my goal was just to finish the race today. But, hey, I had some people in front of me, had some problems, and it all worked out. So really, really excited to get fourth in a strong field here.
And next week, it's going to be a very different circuit, much thinner and much shorter lap at Summit Point. I'm assuming since you used to run this car a lot, you probably have a fair bit of experience there in this car, correct?
Yeah, but that's really 9 years ago. And I was saying the only time I've been on Summit since I was racing the MX-5, which I guess that was 5 years ago, was when the Lotus 49 race happened. You know what? Maybe I didn't even do that race in the 49. I think I watched it. I think I was out of town. Anyway, it's been a while, but one of my favorite tracks in what I call a momentum car. So I'm sure I'll enjoy it, and hopefully I'll have a decent result there as well.
Well, we look forward to seeing you once again. Thanks for joining us on another series. Clearly, you are a fast driver, sir.
I'm getting there. I got some good people helping. So thanks for the broadcast, guys. Always looking forward to seeing you guys races, and I'll go look at this one.
That was Billy Bob Wright, fourth place finish, and appropriately the car number 49. And we're going to close out today, of course, with a big thank you once again to our sponsor for this series, Sim Stickers. If you'd like to find out more about them or maybe order some of their products, you can find them at simstickers.co.uk. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on IESN. All you got to do to subscribe to that channel is click on the big red button that says subscribe so that you don't miss a moment on the iRacing Esports Network. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Interestingly, she's over in Japan right now. But see the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And a thanks to the team today, Adam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading over to West Virginia, that'll be Summit Point Sunday, October 20th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, that the drivers will take to the track yet again. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, we'll see you on the track.